Good morning. Kalimata. Did I say right? Kalimata. Good morning. I am so excited to be here. I think it's been almost 6 years we've been trying to make this work, and it finally did. And I am so excited to be to Greece. I was here when I was 16, so it looks very different now. But I'm going to explore, very happy to meet all of you, very happy to see the Greek tech scene. And today I want to talk to you about becoming product-led. So how many of you are product people, like product owners, product managers? Let's see. All right, we got a couple in the audience. How about developers? All right, got a bunch of developers. UX designers? Yep, we got three. Three of you. What else? What am I missing? Shout it out. What are we missing? Anybody else? Testers. How many testers we have here? All right, got a couple testers too. Great. So today what I want to talk to you about is this concept of what product-led means and what we can do to actually become truly product-led. So in 2018, I wrote this book called Escaping the Build Trap. And in the book, I was trying to help people understand what product managers actually do. So I had been working with a lot of companies, trying to introduce the concept of product management to them. I've done things with extremely large banks. I've done things with smaller companies, smaller startups or growth stage companies. And the concept of product management was not super well known, I would say, when I first started teaching back in 2013, 2014. And this book really was about what does that mean? What does it mean for an organization? What do product managers do and how do we do that? And I'm happy to say that since it came out and over the last, I'd say probably 5 years, we've gotten a lot better at product management in general. Are we 100% there yet? No, but we've gotten a lot better. And what I'm seeing is that we get better at the foundations, right, of all of these different practices. So before, I had to beg people to please talk to your customers, right? I used to be on stage just being like, please talk to your customers. And now we know that we're supposed to talk to our customers. We're seeing people start to define MVPs better. We see better collaboration between product managers and developers. We see a lot more data-driven decisions, and this is good. So a lot of teams are practicing great product management, and that is fabulous, and I'm really, really happy to see that. But we still have a couple things to work on. And I also started a podcast, like everybody else in the world. And on the podcast, I asked people to write in questions to me. So whatever you want about product management, and I answer them. In the end of 2022, I went back and I looked at what were our most frequently asked questions. And they were around, how do I scale product management? So I'm doing all these practices, but how do I scale it to the rest of the organization? What does that mean? And then the second one was, how do I get buy-in to do good product management? I'm a product manager in my company. I really want to be experimental. I want to use data, but everybody's telling me what to do. And it's interesting because I see so many companies out there that I work with who say they want to be product-led. Their entire executive team says, yeah, we want that thing. We want to be product-led. We want to get into this, right? And yet, it's not working. And when we get into these companies, what I see is that even though they say it, trying to get the rest of the company on board is extremely hard, right? It's like pulling them. You're like, yes, you should be product-led. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it. So why is it that hard, right? Why are people so scared of this concept of being product-led? And what I think it is that they look at this terminology and they think that it means that product management rules everything. You will listen to me. I will be your overlord, right? I'm the person you have to listen to because I'm the product manager. But that's not true, right? That's not actually what the case is to be product-led, and that's not what it really means. But people get scared. So if you think about your salespeople in an organization, you think about your CEO, you think about founders, right? They see this terminology and they think that means that the product managers are the only people you should listen to. And there's a lot of product managers out there that also believe that's true. I'm not letting us off the hook. There's a lot of product managers who looked at this and said, yeah, being product-led means I rule everything. And that's not true. That's not what we're really looking for. So what does product-led mean? It means that the product leads our growth. So instead of trying to scale our businesses or drive the growth of our businesses through a lot of salespeople out there begging people to sell, selling whatever we want, right? Trying to come up with a lot of things that end up on our roadmap that don't necessarily make sense for our product. What we're doing is we're looking at the product centrally and saying that that product, not the product managers, but the product is the thing that leads our growth. That's what people are buying. And we all have to come together to actually make that work. It's not just the product manager's responsibility, it's the whole company's responsibility to make that work. So when you think about what it takes to build a great product, you need to consider so many different factors. There is not just development, right? You have to also think about market research. What are our competitors doing? How are they out there? What are they doing in the market? How's the market changing? What are our customers doing? How are they using our product? What are the technology implications? Now we all love to talk about AI. What does that do for our product, right? How is it going to change? So in order to holistically build a great product, we can't just say in a bubble that it's product management that's going to make these decisions. We need to consider everything and pull it together. So what I'm seeing out there, though, is we're not doing a fantastic job at this. Because as people on teams, managers, executives, what's happening is we're really, really good at thinking small. We're good about looking at our agile practices, looking at our product practices from a team level, but we're not thinking big. And we're not thinking about how all these things come together to drive our product forward. And to do that, we really need some kind of culture shift to get people on board. So many organizations out there are still operating like product and tech sit over here, and sales and marketing sit over there, and we're just not all one team working towards the goal. So we need to look at a culture shift of how we start to think this and embrace good product-led practices. So when you think about changing culture, which is also a lovely big topic that we like to talk about, you have to think about what that means. How do we get people to adopt a product culture? And I really like this quote, who is from Gert Hofstede. And he talks about what an organizational culture actually means. And he says that while national cultures are based on deeply held values, organizational cultures are concerned with practices. And the repetition of these practices or behaviors within a workplace help to define the organization's culture. So let's think about that for a minute. What are those practices and behaviors we're doing inside an organization to be product-led, right? To embrace good product management. Think about what those are. They all look like this, what we just talked about. And these are team-level practices. These don't talk about how do we pull all of it together. And what happens is when we don't pull it all together, top to bottom, from the CEO all the way down to the developers, to the salespeople, to the marketing people across the board, we start to lose a connection for building great products. We start to lose the value that we want to really deliver to our customers. And I like to liken it to a poorly run restaurant. Let's consider that. So imagine that you're on a restaurant team, right? You built a restaurant, and you got a bunch of chefs there. And you hire the best chef who is fantastic at cutting the vegetables. They know all the vegetable stuff. And you got a sous chef who can cook the best meat, the best fish, everything like that. And you've got another chef over here who does fantastic sauces. If you don't have a great recipe, though, for what that meal looks like, it's going to taste like crap, right? Nobody's going to want to eat it. So it's not just about those individual practices of what people are doing, right? It's about bringing it all together into the overall goal. And the same goes for the team, right? If you have a bunch of cooks in a kitchen and they're not talking to each other, they're not collaborating, they're not understanding what that menu is, they're not understanding how we deliver that great experience for our customers when they come to the restaurant, we start to lose sight of the overall goal. And this is what's happening in our companies. And this is why people are still struggling with product management, with Agile, with building great products. And you start to see a disconnect, right? We hear a lot, I work with tons of executives, and they say, hey, we adopted Agile, we trained a bunch of our product managers, I don't see results. What's happening? Why is our business not moving forward? And this is a conversation everywhere. It's not just one company, it's all the companies. And it's because they're missing very fundamental things. What they're missing is really a core of product management, but they're afraid to go after it. So why are they afraid to start making these shifts and start to kind of, we say, hey, we want to be product-led, this will help with it. They're afraid to actually go after it. But one reason is there's a lack of knowledge. So people just don't know what it means to be product-led. So you might be sitting out there saying, hey, I want you to adopt these practices, it's going to help, it's going to make better outcomes. They don't know what that means. And you have to think about the salesperson over there who's never worked in a product-led company. They're going to be fighting with you about this because they don't know. They're like, what does that mean? Where are we going? The other thing that really stops people from doing this is a lack of control. So how many people work with founders? Anybody? Yeah, a couple people. So founders are very guilty of this, and so are CEOs, so are a lot of executive teams. They've been in control. They've been dictating what you should build. Now we're saying we're taking that away. And they're going, I'm scared because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So in order to really satisfy this and start to move more into a product-led organization and tackle these things, we need to focus on two more parts of product management that are not just the practices. It's not just about building MVPs. It's not just about working in agile teams. It's about pulling that together across the organization. And those things are product strategy and product operations. And these are the two biggest things I see missing from organizations that help us fill this gap and solve these problems. And the first one I like to tackle is product strategy. There are so many organizations out there that do not have a product strategy, and they don't know what it means. And their product strategy could look like a wish list of features, right? Just build all these things, that's my strategy. But that's not good. That's not really helping us achieve our goal. So you think of product strategy, going back to our restaurant analogy, like the menu, right? It's not just the dish, it's not just a recipe, but it's the whole menu of how we're gonna deliver that experience. And it's the experience around that. Like when you go to a restaurant, you don't wanna just sit on like a stool in a corner, right? You want this whole experience. And that's how we have to think about strategy. It's pulling all of those things together to deliver that great experience. And most organizations are really suffering with this gap. They're not building it correctly. So how do you know if you don't have a strategy? There's a great book called The Art of Action by Stephen Bungay. And if you want to learn about strategy deployment, highly recommend it, love it. And he talks about these strategic gaps. And when you observe these gaps between outcomes, plans, and actions, you could start to tell that a strategy is not in place. So some of you have probably experienced this before. Let's check out these gaps, right? First gap is between outcomes and plans. And that's the knowledge gap. Have you ever had an executive demanding more and more information? Tell me what you're building. Tell me what the teams are doing. What's going on here? I had a CEO of a 5,000 person company digging through Jira. I was like, please get the hell out of Jira. Nothing in there is going to help you. You're not going to find what you're looking for. But it was a lack of knowledge, right? He didn't know what was going on. He was not sure what everybody was working on. And it wasn't the fact that he wanted to know literally what 5,000 people were doing. He just wanted to know what he was getting, right? He couldn't make decisions because he didn't know what was in progress. So that's the knowledge gap. The next one is plans and actions. So the gap between plans and actions is an alignment gap. So what you observe here in organizations is that the executives at the top, they're like, we have a plan, we're going after these things, and teams are working like crazy, you're doing the best work you possibly can, but you're not going in the same direction. What's happening is everybody is understanding a different path, and we're spreading our people thin across the organization on many, many, many different tasks. We're not prioritizing, and that means that we're not achieving our goals. So what the executives want us to be working on is not necessarily what we're doing. And that's an alignment gap. It means we're not all working towards a common goal. The last one is really this gap between outcomes and action, and that's the effects gap. So let's say we shipped a bunch of stuff, but nothing happened. Where'd our outcomes go, right? Where were those things that we wanted to achieve? Where was that increased NPS score? Where was the adoption increase? Where was the growth in our company, in our annual recurring revenue? When you're not observing that, that's really the gap between what we're doing and what we want to achieve. And all of these go hand in hand. So what happens when we don't achieve that? We start blaming each other. It's marketing's fault. It's the developer's fault. They're not working fast enough. Type faster, right? And we get into these arguments across all these divisions. Everybody's blaming each other, and it's not going well. So what I'm seeing out there is that when people think they're starting strategies, what usually happens is we have a company vision, and then we've just got solutions. There's nothing in between. And sometimes the company visions are really, really vague. And those company visions are like, make more money. You're like, cool. How? Like, be the best bank. What does that mean, right? Like, what does it mean to be the best bank? How are we actually going to get out there? So executives come out here, CEOs come out here, and they go, I want you to make more money. And the rest of the teams are like, okay, how? Would you like me to sell credit cards? Would you like me to sell bagels? Like, how, right? What are we all here for? What are we working towards? So what's really missing here is what I call the missing middle, and that's all those strategy layers that connect a great company vision back down to what the teams are doing. And there's a lot of them. There's a few of them. So you might have, how many people are working with OKRs? Anybody do OKRs? Yeah. Okay, so this is similar to OKRs. This does not replace it. You can write an OKR like this. Biggest issue I see with OKRs is that they teach us how to write objectives and key results, but they don't give us the context of what a good objective looks like for a team, what a good objective looks like for a manager of product managers, let's say, or an engineering lead, or what a good objective looks like for executives. And that's what we're talking about in these strategy layers. So when we're looking at a company strategy, what we really need to do is get the company strategy down first, and that's the stuff in green on the top. So you need a great company vision that talks about how you're differentiated, what's your position in market, what are you going to do for your customers, and where you want to go. And it should be realistic. It shouldn't just be the best bank. It's like, how do I know when I'm the best, right? It should be something you can actually picture getting there for in about 5 years, 10 years if you're bigger. Now, leadership sets that. Usually the CEO is spearheading this, but he's working with the executives as well to do that, pull it all together. Then you've got these company strategic intents. And the company strategic intents are a huge gap that I see. And what this is a prioritized focus on what the whole company wants to achieve. Do we want to go up market and sell into the enterprise? Do we want to go down market like Adobe did and start to do Creative Cloud? What's our focus, right? And what are we all working towards? Not just the product team, but everybody. So that should be looking more like 1 to 3 years in advance. And what this does is it prevents the executives from being like, build me that button, right? They should be focused up there. They should be focused on this long-term thinking. Then we get into our actual product strategy. We look across our product portfolio and we say, how are these products going to come together to win, right? To help achieve those company goals and get closer to that vision. And that's usually looking, again, 1 to 3 years out. It's characterized by having a vision of what that portfolio looks like. And it's also got initiatives that are prioritized, and very few, I try to say not too many, so that we can focus the rest of the teams. Then we look at each individual product, and we do that inside our products. And then the teams come up with the solutions. I call them options because I don't want people to commit to the first solution. You might call them epics. It doesn't matter to me. What this is the stuff that we're going to be delivering so that we can actually reach those goals, right? And what you notice too is that on our product strategy and our portfolio strategy, they're customer focused, right? They're problem focused. They're not solution focused. It's about what problems do we want to solve for our customers to reach these goals? What can we do to unlock value? So none of this should be dictating solutions all the way down to teams. It allows the teams to figure out what we need to build to go forward. So if you are working in a smaller company and you don't have a product portfolio, you're just taking that layer out and you're going right into the product strategy. That's totally fine. But no matter what, there's usually no more than these levels. I've worked in organizations of 50,000 people, and if you start to put more levels, what they want to do is put like a strategy for every person who reports in. And if you do that, you compress it because you get to a point where 8 levels from the CEO, somebody doesn't have something to work on, so they're like, build the button, right? And then our teams can't be autonomous. So we have to make sure that we're sticking to the right levels of strategy and just a few of them to help enable everybody to go forward. So the big issue that's happening with this kind of strategic layers and these outputs is that our executive teams and our departments are starting to work very siloed. So it's always been sales figures out their strategy over there, marketing figures out their strategy over there, technology, product, everybody figure out your strategy and come together. And this has existed like that for years, right? That's how companies used to work back in the day as well. And it used to work when we were split into IT teams over here that just did our infrastructure, and then we saw the business as those sales and marketing people over there, right? And that's not what we want to see going forward. That's not how businesses are coming together. Because what's happening now is that the product is our business. So even if you are a SaaS company, this makes total sense, but even if you're not selling pure software to people, we have to see that our software is an integral part of how we make money, right? And how we drive our business forward. Take banks, right? If you have a credit card, you're usually not just buying that credit card because of a loan rate or exactly what the financials look on it. It's about how we can use it, how we can pay our bills, what the experience is when I go into a bank, what the experience is online, right? You would probably never adopt a solution or buy a credit card if you couldn't pay your bill online. So all of these things go hand in hand to make those products better. So the products we sell are our business. And that means that we all have to come together across all of these functions to start to look at that. So executive teams need to work together to start to figure out common goals. And those are what those strategic intents are. So they're things like increasing retention in markets that, are not doing so well. So let's say you've got like a bunch of mid-market people churning like crazy. Okay, that might be our number one goal. Increase the retention, right? Move up market, but they're prioritized. I say there's no more than 3. It's always hard for people to look at. Everybody wants to do everything. No more than 3. And they're a common goal across all of the executives. And what happens when you set it like this is that we stop the fighting. It no longer becomes sales being like, you have to build these things over here for these customers for a product. What's going to happen is we go look at the common goals that everybody's working towards and say, does it help us actually increase the retention or move up market? If not, we're not prioritizing it right now. We can't do that because we are all focused on the same goals. So this helps people work together better. Right? Everybody's coming together towards these goals, trying to accomplish it, to make better decisions about our product. And you cannot have a good product strategy without having great company goals. So that's really where it starts. So we want to work together to make sure that we're all aligning towards those goals, going back towards those goals, and building strategies towards them as well. And I like to do this really by setting strategy with something I call the product kata. Product kata is based off Toyota kata. Toyota kata is a way that Toyota's production system helped everybody start to work more towards continuous improvement. And the way that we set strategy can be exactly the same way. And what it starts with is that you usually digest the strategy from the layer that's coming down to you. So if you're on a team, that's going to be those product strategies and the initiatives that are problem focused. We want to move into these directions. These are the type of things that we want to solve. And then we're going to understand the direction. So for us, we need to go to our leaders and say, hey, where are we going, right? What's our vision? What are the initiatives? What's prioritized, right? Would you rather me do this or this? What's more important for us here? Can you explain to me what the company goals are? Once you understand that direction, now you can take action. What you do is you go out and you analyze the current state. You look at your area of the product and you say, where are we now compared to that direction? What does it look like? Usually, to do this, you're pulling a massive amount of data, right? We're looking at qualitative data by going to talk to our customers. We're also looking at quantitative data to pull out of our systems to understand where we're going, right? So what's our usage? What's our adoption? What types of people are using our product? What types of people are not using our product? Where are people falling off? From there, now you could set your next goal, the goal about what you want to do for your solution, where you want to go, and then you're going to execute towards it. And that's where these practices come in, right? That's where these practices come in. That's where you get your experiments, your MVPs, all of those different things that you saw on the list, right? We're using them to work towards this strategy. Then what we do is we start to take that feedback and we learn. And the whole goal of this process is to learn. Learn what's working, learn what's getting us closer to our vision, learn what's going to help us reach our strategies. So when you look at strategy deployment across an organization, it's actually everybody who's doing this, our executives as well, right? Our executives, middle managers, everybody who's going to be doing this. And the executives need to do the same process to set those strategic intents and the company vision. And then our CPO or our VPs of product are going to do that on the portfolio level. It's going to go down to the team, to the product level for the strategies, and then it's going to go down to the teams. But the teams are the only ones who can actually execute, right? Managers don't actually build anything. So their job is to set that strategy. And I'll tell you a lot of managers don't understand that. And if you've ever been frustrated with a manager, especially a new manager, somebody who's not done this before, and said they're not providing direction, they don't know where it goes, it's because they don't know how to set strategy, and they don't understand usually what these two middle layers are. They know how to do your job. And that's for a lot of managers who get promoted, right? They know how to do MVPs, they know how to build great code. So we need to get them really focused on those middle layers to provide that direction, pull them up on the time horizon. So once you execute on that, what you're doing is you're feeding these feedback loops in and saying, let me figure out how we reach our goals. We're communicating that as well back up. We're always looking into the next part of the organization and saying, hey, managers, hey, leaders, this is what happened. Here's what we learned. We have to either change course or we're well on our way to actually achieving the goal. And we do that all the way back up to the organization. So when we deploy strategy this way and we work together up, down, and across, we're all coming together towards good goals. And that collaboration is absolutely essential. And it's something that I don't see enough companies doing, is really thinking about how do we deploy this down, how do we deploy it back up. Now, one of the big issues that I also hear from executives all the time is that they do not understand how the teams, what they're actually working towards, is going to make money, right? Or is going to achieve the company goals. And when you deploy strategy this way, it tells you how to do that, right? You can start to actually trace everything back up from what the teams are delivering to how we're going to make money and what those company goals are. It helps with that. It helps a lot. But if you don't understand, or if they have not prioritized where they're going, it's really impossible to do that. Now, the biggest part of setting strategy is really this piece, getting that data and analysis in there and understanding the current state. And we need a way to get better data in our organization so that we can make decisions. And this is a huge gap everywhere. So that piece really gets solved by this thing, product operations. So product operations is the infrastructure of how you run your product management teams, how you run your whole organization to come together around that product. It's like how we do the lines in the kitchen, right? It's how we're handing off things, how we're collaborating together, how we're all going together around that menu and getting things done. So product operations is actually a pretty robust practice. And there's 3 pillars that we want to look at when we're setting this up. The first pillar is really about getting the business data and insights back out so that we can monitor our strategy and make decisions. So there is a wealth of information stored in our organization, and we're not pulling it out of the systems. A lot of times it's siloed, and you've got leaders trying to learn SQL, you've got product managers trying to learn SQL to get that information out. And we have to go to the developers usually to try to get it. We need to make that better accessible for everybody. We need to make it so that anybody can actually look at the data, whether you're a developer, UX designer, or a CEO. So this helps us really get that data out to make decisions and monitor our strategy. The next piece is customer and market insights. This is not about doing customer research for you. This is about streamlining it. Like, how many people have actually tried to go talk to customers and it takes you like 40 hours just to line up a couple interviews, right? That's hard. Also, we've got people out there talking to customers every single day, and yet if we're in a bigger organization, we don't know what they were talking about, but it might be helpful to us. We're not storing our information in ways where we can actually access it. We're not really streamlining the way we can get in touch with customers, and that makes it hard for us to do customer research. I firmly believe most people want to do good user research and want to talk to their customers, but it's hard because of the logistics. So this part is solving that, right? It's solving the logistical problems of getting in touch with your customers and understanding that information. The last piece is about process and governance. And this isn't about putting in like very specific processes. It's more about how do we collaborate across the functions? how do we get information to sales? How do we talk about roadmaps? How do we set up an infrastructure so that everybody's not doing something different and people can understand it across the organization? So let's say you're a developer on one team, and then you transfer to another team, and that product manager is using a completely different system for roadmaps. They use a completely different language. They don't talk to sales. Everything looks different. That's hard, right? That's hard to work with. That's hard to actually make sure that we're consistently doing this across an organization. So this should be streamlining and enabling. And product operations does not replace product management. What it does is it enables it, right? It's an enabling function that helps the whole team, and it helps the whole product development team as well get their work done. So that's the key that I want you to remember about this discipline. So with data and insights, we talked about how it takes all of these things to actually build a product. All this information usually lives everywhere across an organization, right? We've got people using Salesforce on sales that have fantastic information about why our customers are not buying our product, and it's stuck in Salesforce. And sales isn't tagging it appropriately, so we can't pull it out. It's like, I want to see that. I want to know what they're doing, right? We've got financial information stuck in our accounting software. We've got technology implications, right, that we need to talk to with the teams. We want to make sure that all of this is aggregated in a way that we can look at and make decisions. So one company that's doing this really well is Doodle. So Doodle is a scheduling software. They have 32 million customers. And Stephanie Liu is the CPO there. I had her on the podcast, and she was telling me about this, and I was like, oh, I want this so bad. She said that when they started, they had a big aim to make data accessible. So their data team went in and instrumented everything, every little product, all the different software, and they put it all together in a popsicle, and helped people, allowed anybody to go in and run reports. So as a developer, you could go in and see the impact of the products that you were actually shipping. As a product manager, I could pull out what adoption is by customers in there because it was all in there. And they also help surface up insights. So they'll go back to the CPO and say, hey, I know we're looking at these new markets, we're looking at these enterprise functions. Here's some trending data that I saw that you might want to look into. So this helps everybody keep an eye on it. And they also open up all the financials to the rest of the company too, so that you can actually look at how your products are making money. And you can report on them and you can go back to it. So it's a really, really robust way of being able to track your data and see it. So that's the goal, that's the vision that would be great if we can all get there. And that's what I'm talking about with data and insights, being able to monitor your strategy, your products, and be able to make decisions. When we're thinking about customer and user research, Fidelity, which is a huge company in the United States, and they do have a global presence, but they manage all the retirement accounts. And they've got something like 85,000 people across the world. They have this market and user insights team run by Jen Cardello, who I worked with previously, that helps streamline user research. So as a bank, there's a lot of compliance issues, a lot of legal issues to just let everybody go out and talk to customers. They can't just go do lean startup methods on the street and be like, hey, show me your bank account. Like, that's illegal. So they have to figure out a way to help make people be able to talk to customers. So she created this function that really plugs in and helps them with it. So one thing that they do is democratization of user research. She helps make sure that people are trained in those compliance issues, trained in those legal implications so that people can go out and do good user research. So she trains all the teams to do that. She also has her team fill in when there's things that need to be a little more specialized. You have a problem because your team doesn't know how to do a prototype, or they want to run a test with a larger group, her team will come and help. And they prioritize that based on where the company goals are and how they fit in there. They also have a team of market researchers as well who will help you do an analysis on the market opportunities. Say you want to launch a new product, go after a new market. They'll help you with those types of analysis. So this makes it possible for 85,000 people in Fidelity to actually get out there and talk to customers, get the research. And it's not them doing it all for them. It's them enabling them to get that information. When you're thinking about the process and governance part, that's where Pendo started. So Pendo, which is a user analytics platform that is for all of us product development people out there, they had a problem where their sales team and their product team did not like each other. Shocker, right? Nobody's ever experienced sales and product not getting along. And they tasked Christine with going out and trying to fix that. So Christine said, all right, what's going on here? So she went to the product team, and they were like, sales just keeps telling us what to build. They keep dictating the roadmap. They keep overselling the roadmap. Like, they don't understand what we're doing, and we don't want to talk to them anymore. Every time we talk to them, they just yell at us, and then they go sell things we don't want them to sell. So she goes to sales, and sales is like, I have no idea what product development is doing. I don't know what they're selling. I'm trying to make plans for the next year. We have customers asking for things. They won't tell me if it's possible or not, and it was a mess. So she came in and started to help streamline the operations between them. So she made it possible for sales to get the information they were hearing from customers back to product, not in a way that was like build this thing, but in a customer problem-focused way. So they made it possible to pull things out of the sales systems, put it into a repeatable fashion so product could digest it, it gets to the right people. And then she created systems for product to share their roadmap, but also to make sure they weren't overselling it, to make sure that they understood that some things are still in discovery mode. These are the types of things that will be released. You can talk about this, you can't talk about that. That's actually something that we did too when I was working at a company called Athena Health, which was a healthcare company. And at Athena Health, we had a huge issue with salespeople overselling the roadmap. They were promising everything, like everything. And when I went to find out why, I was like, what's going on? Like, guys, like, why'd you promise that? They said, well, they showed me this clickable prototype. They didn't know it was a prototype, right? They said, they showed me this clickable prototype, and I thought it was done. They didn't know, right? They had no idea that wasn't built because we were showing them stuff early, getting their feedback, and they were selling it. Meanwhile, it's 6 months out. We're not going to be able to do it. So we said there's a disconnect between what we're doing and what they can sell. And we introduced this framework, which changed a lot of stuff. We said, we're going to tag every single thing we're doing on a roadmap in a phase. If it's an experiment phase or alpha, beta, discovery, alpha, let's say experiment and discovery, we don't know if that's actually going to get released. Do not sell that, right? If it says that on the tag, don't sell it. Cannot promise you that it'll be released. We're still working through these things. And we wouldn't even show stuff in that phase to the salespeople. That would get knocked off the roadmap that was shared with them. That was an internal product development roadmap. But things that were in beta, we were pretty sure that we were going to release it. We're just testing it for scale and making sure that it works, right? We're trying to roll it out to more and more people, fine-tune it before we do a flashy launch. So there's probably a lot of people actually on there using it. There are beta testers, there are beta customers, and we're just experimenting a little bit more to make sure it's solid. You can talk about that. Go ahead and talk about it, but just don't promise that they can have it tomorrow, right? We had guidelines around that. And then generally available meant sell it. It's out there. It's available to anybody. You can turn it on for anyone. It might be under a feature flag, who cares, but sell it. So when we did a sales roadmap, we would put the beta and we would put the generally available on there. And then anything that we were kind of exploring around a problem that we knew it was validated, we'd keep it problem focused. And they could say that was coming in the future, but they were never allowed to sell it. They were not allowed to sign it into contracts. And this worked wonders. This helped the salespeople understand our process. It also helped them not go oversell everything and promise everything. So highly recommend doing something like that if you're having an issue with sales and product. Now, also what product operations does is it standardizes helpful templates. It doesn't standardize everything. I know, like, I don't want to get into a very dogmatic approach. It's about what works for you. But things that I've seen help, strategy memos. So we just talked about what good strategy looks like. How do we write those? What should we be talking about? Who should write them? Usually these are things that are like 2 to 3 pages long, and they explain your vision, what you want to go after, where you are now, what's your current state, what's the end goal look like, and what are we all working towards. Another one, OKR reporting, go-to-market documentation, which is usually a mess, roadmaps. But there's a lot of different things that you could actually standardize. It's about what works for your company. It's about things that other departments need to see. Right? It's about things that go cross-functionally. It's not about standardizing every little thing that you do. So what's going to help? What helps fill in the gaps? Product operations is also where a bunch of our tools live for product managers. We have Jira for developers, or nobody likes Jira, but you know, we have that. What else do we have to bubble things up? There's tools like Dragonboat that can help us understand our portfolio view and connect it back into Where is everybody working towards, and how does that relate to our goals? And we need some kind of road mapping or portfolio tool to be able to monitor our product and our product strategy. And what this does is it makes it possible for us to communicate to leadership what's happening without having to pull a ton of data out of our systems for like 2 months every single time somebody needs a report, right? Instrumenting these types of things makes it faster for us. It allows us to actually make decisions. So if we have tools like this, that can help us. They also help us show what progress we're making towards our goals and keep track of it. How far are we away? So product operations is fairly new, but there's a lot of companies doing it. So I'm not talking about something that's theoretical here, like people are doing it. They are as, Stripe. Uber was one of the first people to actually do product operations, led by a guy named Blake Samick. He went to Stripe, started it there. He is now at OpenAI. So OpenAI just hired him as a VP of product operations to do it for their whole company. They see it as a really important thing. So tons of companies out there really putting these in place because they see that it works and enables their product managers to do better. So when you put product operations in place, you get better communication and collaboration, you get better strategies and business outcomes, better product launches, and then better onboarding for product managers. It helps people be able to come into your organization and know what's going on. So I'm very passionate about this, if you couldn't tell, and that's what my next book is on. So it's called Product Operations. It will be live on Amazon next week. So if you go to productoperations.com, I will email you when it goes live, but it will be out next week. And we designed this really as a how-to put this into place and where to start. And I should say as well, you've got a lot of stuff in there. And everybody's first question was, do I have to do it all? No, you don't have to do it all. It can start with one person. You can hire one person, you can take one person internally and start with your biggest need. If that's business and data and insights, you start there if you need the information. If it is trying to do better customer research, try to get in touch with your customers, start there. If it's about roadmaps or being able to view what people are working on, start there, right? It does not have to be implement this all at once. It can grow. And this book is what we wrote to help you understand how to do that. So I hope you will all read it as well. So let's go back to our beginning and talk about this, right? Lack of knowledge, lack of control. This is what we're actually dealing with a lot of the people who don't want to accept product-led, what that means. So lack of knowledge. We just kind of showed a lot of people don't know they should be doing this. And that's what's standing in the way. They don't know how it works. So one thing that we could all do out there is help educate, right? Provide templates, provide a way for people to know what they should be working on. And a good way to do that too is ask. So I really encourage you after today, if you're not sure what your company goals are, ask. Go to leaders. Start that dialogue. A lot of them don't know they should be working on it. I work with a ton of founders. I work with a lot of CEOs. They don't know how to sometimes do the company vision and strategic intents I was telling you about. If you say, hey, would we rather focus on this segment or that segment or start those conversations, they usually light up and want to talk about that. So talk about it in their language. Say, what do you see as the most important thing we could be doing from a business focus? Like, is it growing ARR? Is it retention? Is it this? In those language. And if you ask, you'll actually find some surprising answers. Sometimes there is a strategy, but it's stuck in people's heads. They're really, really bad at communicating it. And if you get them to write it down, you'll usually see what's more apparent. So if you are a leader in here, I hope you consider that too. Just write down what you think we should be working on. The other part, though, that we have to deal with is lack of control. And that's the scarier part, right? Imagine you are a founder, and all of a sudden you bring in a team, and the team is going to be doing the work. You're no longer tinkering. You're no longer coding. You're no longer in there. How do I make sure everybody's working towards the good stuff, right? How do I make sure that they're all going in the right direction? Well, when we deal with people who are suffering from lack of control, we do need to have empathy, right? So I want you to think about if you are having that fight, put yourself in that person's shoes. Why are they reacting that way? If a salesperson is freaking out that you're adopting agile practices and then the teams are coming up with solutions, it's probably because they're worried about hitting their numbers. And salespeople usually get paid a commission off of the numbers that they hit. It's a huge part of their salary. Sometimes it's 70 to 90% of their salary. So how can you help them achieve their goals? How can you tell them we're on the same team? I want you to hit your numbers, right? This is how we work together. So really think about the people who are pushing back and think about where they're coming from and tailor your communication and your language that way. So we need to think about as well what our practices and behaviors are. We also need to model what good looks like a lot of the time. So think about what you're doing and how you're communicating with people. Are you asking questions about strategy? Are you practicing good behaviors of thinking strategically and thinking bigger picture? What is the practices and behaviors of our organization? If we all start moving more towards this way of collaborating better together, empathizing with people, we're going to make sure that we do have a well-run kitchen and that none of us are just working in silos and we can come together to create a great experience for our customers. So thank you very much. If you do want the slides, you can go to productslabs.com/beyond and download it there. And I do have a podcast. I feel so weird telling people I have a podcast because it's looked on so negatively now. But it's called Product Thinking. And I do answer questions every week on there as well. And we have a couple programs for people, leaders at cpoaccelerator.com, which is for product leaders, and then for product managers, Product Institute. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, folks, let's